Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. This is webinar number 19 in a series of webinars for small business navigating the impacts of COVID-19. I'm Barbara Coffey, Director of Economic Initiatives for the City of Tucson. We have another great panel for you today. Our speakers will share with you how they have been faring during this pandemic as both landlords and tenants today. As always, we will take your questions as we go, and feel free to enter those questions in the chat box, and we'll get to as many of those as possible in our time together. There is also a Q&A box that you can use as well. We will keep all participants muted since we do have a large number of attendees, and we do record the session and we'll make it available for everyone tomorrow. You can find links to all our previous webinars at connecttucson.com, and typically by noon the next day, this one will be posted as well. So we'll get started. I'm going to introduce our first speaker this afternoon, Jane McCollum, General Manager of the Marshall Foundation that owns and manages Main Gate Square, a development area just outside the west gate of the University of Arizona. During Jane's 34-year commercial real estate career, she has specialized in redevelopment of commercial properties and management of retail centers. Jane graduated from Butler University with a BS in Business Administration and from National St. Louis University in Evanston, Illinois, with an MS in Education. She holds a real estate broker's license in Arizona, and Jane is the chair of the Park Tucson Commission, a past president of Tucson Crew, the commercial real estate women organization in town, and a member of the UA Foundation's National Leadership Council. In 2012, she was named a Woman of Influence by Inside Tucson Business and has received a variety of other accolades for her work in Tucson over the years. So with that, thank you so much, Jane, for joining us. And I'm excited to have you start us off and share a little bit about this pandemic journey that you've been on, that we've all been on, what it's been like for your work at Main Gate Square with all of that. Jane?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm really delighted to be here. And the biggest lesson I learned was have a well thought out pandemic plan in place. Not that it would have necessarily applied for what we had, but maybe we wouldn't have to have pivoted so often as we did. I love that word, and it's become part of our vernacular. I think that I feel like we're in the pandemic eddy right now. We're doing this, and I'm waiting for the time that we can get out. But the journey to today has been very satisfactory, actually. I was expecting more chaos at Main Gate Square when you have 60,000 people move out of your area and leave, and you don't have them anymore. You've lost a city next to you, and it particularly hits our merchants hard. And the timing particularly hit our merchants hard because March, April, May pay for all the summer months. They pay for June, July, and even August, because not everybody comes back to school right away, because that's when tourism is king. And I remember exactly where I was when the Tucson Festival of Looks was canceled. And right after that, every hotel had every cancellation across the city of Tucson. And we knew we were in for a hard slog. Fortunately, I have a great board of directors. And we had a board meeting on the 17th when my restaurants were told they could only have takeout and delivery now, and they could no longer have in-store dining. And my retailers, I think, were asked to close. I don't remember at all. Salons were asked to close. And one of the suggestions by one of my board members, who is a real estate guy, said, you know, I read this somewhere. Maybe you can apply your tenants, if they have them, security deposits against their April rent if they paid March, because it gives you and them a month to breathe. And it also gave me a month to plan and to just get as much information as I could, come up with as many ideas as I could, talk to as many of my merchants as possible, considering we were starting to work from home. And so that was also something that was thrown into the mix. So the security deposit really worked for a lot of my smaller merchants. Some of my large merchants, national chains, didn't have them. Others didn't have them because they weren't part of their lease when it was first being developed. But that was my kind of my saving grace. But that and everybody else in Tucson who are so generous with their time with their expertise. I called upon the SBA to talk to me early on while the loans were being developed. The Metro Chamber of Commerce, I got right in on their restaurant advisory committee, which allowed me to get good ideas from other restaurants. I joined other committees to just see what I could find out. I stole the best ideas. We started a voucher program similar to the one that downtown had, and it's still going on, and it's going to continue to go on until the end of this year at the earliest. We asked our CPAs for tax advice and how to deal with all of the loans that were being forwarded not only to my merchants, but to us, because not everybody knows that we give away 5% of our net worth every year. It has nothing to do with profit. And we imagined our net worth would not be going down because we still have the properties, but that our cash flow would. And so we wanted to take advantage of some of those small business loans that were good for nonprofits, like the EIDL and the PPP. And it was great for my merchants because a lot of my merchants, despite what the news will tell you, are small businesses and did get PPP loans, and they were their saving grace and ours in many ways. We created social media videos, open for business, because people didn't know who was open. And so we did a whole thing, and it was probably the best liked video of all time. We relied on other real estate professionals to give us just great suggestions. And most importantly, I think I tried very hard to communicate with all of our merchants, maybe over communicate, send all the information that I was getting to them, whether it was about safety, loans, other loans. I mean, I'm still sending loan stuff. You just sent something really recently, Barb, about the YWCA, and those are still going out. And also sharing the fact that you've been doing 19 of these. I can't believe it's been that long.
It's been a long time.
I think I only missed one.
Yeah, well, you've been amazing. But it's the partner support, right? And so, well, tell me a little bit about what's happening there. You know, you've got your finger on the pulse of the university. What's happening now, and what do we think is going to happen with student activity and other things that affect Main Gate?
Well, I'm going to let Richard speak to that too, because he was here this weekend, so he'll have maybe a different idea than my ideas would be. As the manager of the plaza, I'm still trying to get some informational things from the University of Arizona so that we can have the same message on campus that we have here, so that the students who are coming are getting the same message, because many of them will be freshmen and some will be upperclassmen, but they need the message because they didn't get it the first time around. I think there's been deliberate organization by the U of A. They have been over communicating every week, which is great. If things changed, we knew about it, but for at least the last 4 weeks, everything has stayed about the same. We'd like to be more part of what they're doing, because one of the things that we're very excited about is the tracing app that is being developed. There aren't a lot of cities right now that have a tracing app, and so that I think would be great to have. I think I'm a little fearful of young people not wanting to wear masks, not wanting to social distance, and how that will impact my employees. So we've been letting them, some of my employees in my office, work from home. We've also been allowing our maintenance staff, while they're going to have to gear up shortly, to have not as many hours, and so they're rested, especially in the god-awful, heat that we've had over the last 30 days. It's just really hard on them, and so I want them in a good place soon.
So are you nervous at all about any changes in tenancies, or how, on the whole, are you going to experience any vacancies from this? Will you? What do you think?
I don't know. I've had a couple of merchants die. One was not from COVID, and one was. And so those spaces, I don't know what will happen to them. One is actually for lease. That was the Paleo Grill. The owner died. He did not have coronavirus. He died from something else. And it's a corner space, so it'll go just fine. We had some spaces vacant. We don't expect that one of them, which is quite large, will be leased until things sort of start to move into 2021. We have other spaces that people are extremely interested in. We have merchants that are wanting to expand. So we're going to talk to them about expansion if they want it. Mm-hmm. So we have a good core of people, and we had people that didn't have to pivot very far. And so they did very well during this time because they were doing their same model. And so it really didn't affect their sales. And I think it says a lot about our community who came out in the summer to support all of our local merchants, because I really think that made a huge difference for us.
Fantastic. And that's tragic, right? There's just some tragedy associated with all of this. And so, so definitely my heart goes out to you, and having those experiences so close to your area and to the family of businesses there. So I think as, you know, as you look at going forward, let's just take a macro look at the retail environment. What would you say, what are you anticipating in terms of changes in the retail industry that would affect what's happening here locally?
I'm not sure we'll see as much because our retail is very small and they are boutique-y, and our customer tends to want to buy that day. And even Amazon has a hard time delivering that day, but they still seem to support our local businesses. And the minute they opened, we saw really good retail foot traffic because they opened later than the restaurants and the salons as well. We have one salon now. No, we have two. And I think they're okay, but again, they have to limit their interactions with people.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. I'm going to keep us rolling. And as you mentioned, Richard is on today, our next speaker. But before I introduce him, I want to mention that we do have the prestigious council member, Paul Durham, online with us today. So, and Paul, you'll have to let me know if you want me to if you want to offer some remarks. I'm happy to turn your camera on so you can think about that and let me know. But I'm excited. We've had such great attendance, and it just speaks to the fact that there's so much still on our minds about this pandemic. So appreciate the support and attendance from everyone. So let's turn to our next guest, who is a tenant in Main Gate Square, Richard Pfeiffer with Gentle Ben's Brewing Company. Richard is a native Tucsonan, Marine Corps veteran, and UA graduate with a degree in business from Eller College. Richard started working at Ben's as a busser while attending the U of A, worked his way up to barback, server, bartender, then marketing manager and general manager, eventually earning a partial ownership in Ben's. In 2017, with the help of his brother and sister-in-law, they purchased Gentle Ben's and continue to function as owner-operator. I think it's a great story. Richard, welcome, and thanks for being with us today. And I'd love to have you share your perspectives as it relates to how you've been able to navigate through the last 5 months. What was it like for you in March? And then what have you learned? How are things now? Richard?
All right. Thank you, Barbara. I appreciate you having me on here. First, we'll talk about a lot of the challenges that we faced going back all the way until March. And I think from March until now, one of the most important things is communicating with staff what's going on and keeping them happy because they're the ones that are the face of your business and the one to keep us operating. So we went from 100 employees, or almost 100 employees, on the day that we had to close. We reduced our staff to around 12. But with the to-go orders, we didn't even have enough business to sustain the 12 employees that we kept on board. But that was probably one of the most difficult days I've ever had to face while at Gentle Ben's, or maybe just in life. Terminating over 80 employees wasn't a good feeling. So, that was a very hard day, and I wanted to do everything that we could to make sure those employees were still taken care of, but didn't really know where to go in the beginning. So in the beginning, we continued to still feed the employees, gave them a free meal a day, things like that. We gave them information that was passed along to us, including a lot of unemployment stuff, which at the time I didn't think was really enough, or I didn't feel very good about doing any of that, or I really wanted to do more, but the staff actually was very appreciative of it. And when it came back to needing employees to come back to work, we didn't have any issues. I think out of everyone that we tried to bring back, we had 2 people that didn't want to. And we were a recipient of the PPP loan, which was, kind of life-saving. And we were able to get our staff back up to around 60 employees, 65 employees, and we're still functioning around there right now. So, kind of what Jane mentioned, when we shut down was just before March Madness, just before beautiful weather, just before lots of large events that come to campus, and that's kind of our bread and butter, large events and that time of the year. So that, made it worse and worse. So we moved to to-goes. We had a few times where we had people test positive and had to close the restaurant and get everyone tested. In the beginning, it wasn't as difficult, and then as cases ramped up, testing became a lot more difficult. But again, the biggest thing for me was communicating, being transparent to the staff, letting them know what's going on, and letting them know if they've been exposed, and making sure that we're getting people tested. And we didn't know exactly the right steps to do at the time. We researched, we looked up, and then told the staff that that's what we were doing, and we're open to any input if they thought that we were doing something that they didn't like, or if they thought it was unsafe, or kind of just looking for more ways to move forward with everybody being on the same page and a part of the team. So some of the challenges we face now, like I'm sure everybody is going through, is people that don't want to follow the rules. For the most part, we haven't had too many extremely defiant people. More of it is people that just forget. It's not a part of their daily habit yet, but I would assume that soon it will become just more natural. Everyone has a mask when they come in the door, but occasionally I get someone that just doesn't put it on when they get up from a table, or things like that. Very rarely do you have someone who kind of just, mutters under his breath, or, does say something negative. And I've just talked to the staff about, how to communicate with those people. They obviously don't care about the safety aspect of things. So try to appeal to them in a way that you might be able to come across. And for me, we've been a struggling business. I don't care if our staff or the people necessarily feel for the mask and the safety aspect, but please do it for us. We're a struggling business, and the only way that we can operate is if you help us out and you wear a mask. And then a lot of the population that we have come in are students, especially now in the last week or so. And for them, they want to come in and they want to mingle and see their friends and do all those things that would, help spread the coronavirus. So that has been more of a challenge than the masks. And the way we appeal to them, again, is trying to, do something that actually might pull on their heartstrings. But they want to come and see their friends and be in an environment such as our restaurant. Then they have to follow the procedures, because if they don't, the general events won't be open, and they can't come in and do the things that they want to do. We had the health department come in, and we got our sticker to ready to serve you. And then one thing that we learned in that process, which was surprising, was the sanitizer that we'd been using for as long as I've worked there probably wasn't the best choice. And it would require sitting on the table for 10 minutes to kill the coronavirus. So that wasn't really an option. They gave us some recommendations, but other than that, the health department's been very helpful. We're trying to do all of the right things, and they came in and kind of just confirmed that. And then we had a customer, or not a customer, but somebody who walked by and said that we weren't following the protocols and saying that we weren't social distancing, and said that there were 20 people on our patio without masks on. And I did deal with the gentleman directly. And then through Coronavirus Updates Facebook group, he made some comments on there. I'm sure everyone's kind of familiar with that group. And so, I was very upset with all the things that he was saying because they weren't true. But I could see where he was coming from. If he's walking by our patio and he doesn't understand what is allowed and what's not allowed, he sees 20 people without masks on and he thinks that we're breaking the rules. But we can fit a lot more than 20 people on our patio. They're sitting at a table, different tables, more than 6 feet apart, drinking and eating, abiding by the rules. So I tried to appeal to him and, you know, let him know that we're doing the right thing. And then he called the health department. They came back out and did an inspection and gave us a thumbs up again. So, you know, lots of things throughout this have been very frustrating, but everybody's going through it. And, you know, we just have to put our best foot forward and keep going.
Yeah, I think that's you shared some great insights and stories. And I'm curious, it sounds like you've gotten a lot out of the Pima Ready program that Pima County put together. And like you said, learned something very valuable from that. So that's good to hear. And they have a badge program, right? You've got is it a sticker in the window, or what do they give you once you pass the criteria?
Yeah, so almost immediately they send you an email with marketing material that you can use for social media, which is super helpful. And then they give you a little badge that sticks right on the door. And I think everyone's seen it enough times that it's very recognizable.
That's fantastic. We've had great partnership so far, you know, through all of this with all of our partners, but definitely Pima County has come up with some very creative ways that are really effective for helping our businesses. So let's talk about, have you started to see anything this weekend related to student activity? What are you starting to hear? You're probably even listening in on the scuttlebutt at the restaurant. What are you hearing is going to happen over the next few days with students?
So they started their move-ins last weekend. We weren't exactly sure what to expect. We communicated with a lot of the student apartments that are directly behind us, and some of their capacities are almost full. Or not far off from where they would have been last year. So we prepared to be very busy, and that was kind of daunting and scary on how we were going to handle that many people. We're lucky that we have a very, very large space. We have 2 very large patios. So for us, keeping social distancing, having tables spaced at least 6 feet apart, most of our tables are at least 8 feet apart, and then having 2 floors made it so we could do almost as much business as we did in the same time frame last year. And surprisingly, this weekend we did, which was not as scary as I would have thought. People were more compliant than I thought they were going to be going in. But we made sure that our staff knew what our expectations were of them in terms of enforcement. We have a lot of young people on our staff that I think are a little intimidated by telling adults what to do, and so that has been kind of a challenge, and is still a little bit of a challenge. But everyone, it's just gone a lot smoother than I would have thought, and everyone's pretty much abiding.
That's awesome. So there's a question here from Teresa. Are there any creative plans for navigating the impact of UA football and other fall sports being canceled? You know, what are you hearing? Either you or Jane can comment on this. What are you hearing, and what will happen to keep that camaraderie or rallying around the sort of student spirit alive?
Jane, you want to take this one?
Do you want me to take it?
Sure.
Prior to the fall sports being canceled, we had a meeting with Zona Zoo, and we talked about virtual Bear Down Fridays, and talking about spirit, but maybe incorporating more of the whole university, because we have such amazing things going on, and we're going to have a new screen that's built in at the hotel and apartment project behind Urban Outfitters and next to Gentlemen, and across from the Marriott. And so we have, I think, opportunities to do fun things like that. The challenge is we can't have more than 50 people. So how we control those aspects, I think they become more surprising, maybe not announced, maybe not advertised in the same way, but people come across fun things like that. And we're still in the planning stages of that. I think that Zona Zoo's probably overcome with grief right now and has not reached back out to me, but I think they'll recover shortly, and I'll be talking to them next week.
So since I have you on this topic of housing and kind of the number of people returning to housing, what are you seeing there? And then maybe just a brief comment on the exciting new developments, the expansions that you all have done.
Well, we understand the apartment. Of course, we own the ground underneath it and somebody else built it and paid for it. But I understand they're at least 85% occupied and expect to move in 500 students this coming weekend. They moved in some staff, I think, over the weekend. The hotel will not open until October, I believe, at this point in time. The Marriott was having a great weekend and will have a great week. This week we saw increased occupancy for them, and we're thrilled for them because right before this all happened, they completed a $20 million renovation of that hotel. So it's really beautiful if you get your own chance just to go visit it. It looks way different, and it's great for social distancing, and I think it's going to be a popular place.
Awesome.
The Spire moved in, and that was over this weekend, so that's probably a lot of the people that Richard saw, because that moved in. But the rest of them are happening this coming week through the weekend.
Right.
We hear about 5,000 people will live on campus.
Okay. Okay, well, I appreciate that. Jane, Richard, thanks for those updates, and we're going to keep rolling. I'm going to turn to our next guest, Shannon Riggs, co-owner of Pop Cycle on 4th Avenue, which was founded in 2008 with the goal of promoting local art made from recycled materials, reused products, and refurbished goods. Shannon and the Pop Cycle team support artists from all over who make items out of recycled materials and encourage artists in our own community to do the same. She is also chair of the historic 4th Avenue Coalition, so she brings a great perspective to what's happening just a few blocks over. So I'll turn it to Sharon. What's your experience been during this pandemic? What's your outlook for the remainder of this year? Shannon?
Well, we have a couple of different points of view. From a business owner point of view, my partners also, their parents own the building that we're housed in, and also own the Shirley Wench is housed in the same building as well, the Shirley Wench Pub. And then as the chair of Historic 4th Avenue Coalition, it's another point of view about how we're trying to support the businesses on the avenue and help out and partner with FAMA on some programs to try to keep everybody safe and viable during these times. So I guess I'll start from our business point of view. Being retail is a little bit different than bars and restaurants. I don't know if you've been in our store, you know that Jane says she has. It's got a lot of stuff in it. It's very, very packed full. We use our space very efficiently. So we were a little, when the pandemic first started, and people thought that it could be transmitted more via surfaces, now we found out that it's more about you personally. We're just like, how can we possibly control like people touching everything? So we closed. Our staff was really uncomfortable, and like Richard was saying, it's tourist season, and so it's our next to the holidays. It's our busiest time of year, to get gearing up for the slow time of summer, and so it was really disappointing to have to close in mid-March, and but we just didn't know exactly how to keep our staff safe and our customers safe. I mean, we know a little more now than we did then. It was just such a sudden thing. So we went pretty much all online with curbside pickup, and we do deliveries as well, and of course we ship. So we've been doing that since mid-March, or the end of March, and we're going to start doing a little bit of by appointment shopping probably in the next couple of weeks, and then looking to possibly doing some walk-up service starting in September. We did experiment with a little bit of people being able to come kind of a little ways inside the store, and then we kind of get them things. We were doing that in May and June. And then when the cases started spiking and so insanely in the end of June and July, we kind of backed off of that. So we're going to dip our toe back into that probably early September and see how it goes. And as far as, Richard's experience of saying that most of the guests have been really respectful. People that come to our door to pick up their items, they have their mask on, and they all have been really, really, respectful for the most part. So, and, people are disappointed that they can't get in, like Jane was saying about the retail experience. The small retail experience is we're not like Amazon, they want to be able to browse and look at everything. And even though we've gotten everything on our website, or a lot of it, it's difficult. It's not the same as being able to have the whole experience. So we've had people that were disappointed. There were people still coming here on vacation, all through that time, and calling and being like, oh, you're open. And then, but we have a great manager and a great staff that are really good at trying to help people over the phone or send them photos of things. And so it's just been, there's like 5 extra steps to everything than there used to be, obviously, how that goes. So yeah, that's what we've been doing at the store. The coalition has been working on just trying to promote safety on the avenue and make everybody feel, all the merchants feel supported in that, asking people to wear masks and making sure that, that safety precautions are followed. So I actually want, if I could have screen sharing really quick, I'd like to show the campaign that we started. One of our members, John Carrillo, he's an awesome graphic artist. He works for a big company that sells all this like tea towels and socks and all this stuff. Mabel's on 4th and Rosie's Barquette. He's one of the owners there with his wife, and he designs all kinds of cool stuff. So he is really so generous with his talent with us. So he created this campaign. Now let me see if I remember how to do sharing. So if I just click on it, is it gonna
click on share screen?
Yeah. Where is it? Sorry, there's something up here on my thing. Hope I can do it. View. No. I don't know if it's in my, oh, there it is. Share. I can never find that for some reason. It's ridiculous. Okay. So here's the mask. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
This is the campaign that John created. Oops, that's not it. And it's really amazing. Oh, dang it. So there's Pigeon, the dirty pigeons wearing a mask. And so we made these posters and gave them out for free to any businesses that wanted them. Just kind of a cheeky, fun way of like asking people to wear a mask, but keeping it light, and then we had a bunch of pigeons printed out on just really kind of cheap paper, and went around and pasted them all around the avenue, like pigeons doing different things, wearing masks. So it was just kind of a fun campaign. We're still kind of working on it. We're going to add some more stuff soon. I think we're going to do a mural, or maybe add some more pigeons to that ugly plywood walkway that's by the Union. So, because the construction company there has been really generous with letting us kind of put art up on the fencing and stuff along there. So we want to use that to do some more kind of safety promotions. And we're also working with 4th Avenue Merchants Association to create a safety plan for the avenue that kind of encompasses everybody, so that people feel like, because I know Richard was kind of saying like they were having to look things up on the internet and everybody's just kind of doing it piecemeal on their own. We're trying to create something a little more cohesive for our district, and then maybe even work with the city to make it, more for citywide. And so we also worked with the Community Investment Corporation in doing some business support and coaching throughout this time with any businesses on the avenue that wanted it. And then through that, we had the idea of doing safety walkthroughs. So they got together a little team, and they'll do a little virtual walkthrough of your business with you, and then kind of give recommendations for what you need to do to safely reopen. So we did that for PopCycle, and it gave us it was nice, because we're just kind of like, what do we do? How do we get this like safe so that we can let people in? And because we don't want anyone to get sick on our watch, obviously, although it's probably inevitable. But so yeah, they gave us a really great plan, and we're going to start implementing that pretty soon. So that's exciting also, and try to get the doors open. So that's where we're at. I can take these pigeons down. Hold on.
That's great. And that's fantastic, though, to continue to add to that conversation about keeping people safe. And I think that's what customers need. Everyone needs to hear, so that they can feel better about, returning to businesses and enjoying those experiences. And so my question for you would be, what happens next for PopCycle? Will you continue throughout the remaining months of this year in the manner that you have, with more of the online and curbside and delivery aspects, or at what point do you think there's an opportunity for customers to come back, or how do you see, what do we do? What do we tell businesses who are also like you asking that same question?
Exactly. And that's kind of what we're trying to figure out with our partnership with 4th Avenue Merchants Association, is to create safe ways that, people feel good, safe about letting people in. And because most of the small retail on 4th Avenue is still closed. And of course the bars are closed. A few restaurants are open. We also want to try to create a more outdoor space so we can somehow, I know the weather's, horrid right now, but it's going to be nice in a couple of months. And wouldn't it be great to be able to use some of the street and sidewalk space to create, a safe and open environment for people to get together, not get together too close though. So yeah, we are planning probably, like I said, we're starting with the by appointment. In the next couple of weeks to a month, we'll start with dipping our toe back in the kind of walk-up window that we were doing where the front door is open and the store is kind of half because it's long and skinny. So it makes it hard, for people to distance the way we had it set up. So we're going to have to move some things. We're going to have to remove some things and probably have like one thing out and then be like, if you want to see more of this, we can go get it for you. So the kind of tough part about that is it's going to require a lot of staff and we're not going to be making as much money and we're probably going to have to staff the same or more than we did before. So, of course, we've kept our staff on. We also got the PPP and we're able to keep our staff on through this. They're at reduced hours right now, but we found jobs for everybody to do. And we can't wait to get, where they can actually be doing more. So, there's a lot of logistics to think about as far as how to have that browsing experience without, and still keep people safe and distance from each other. Obviously, probably only 4 to 6 people in the store at a time, depending on how we get the floor plan set up. Like minimizing touching things is going to be a challenge. So, it's kind of like people have to think about what they want before they come in, which isn't really the nature of our business. So, it's a little bit tricky, honestly.
So I know that you've taken advantage of some key programs. You've looked at our MyHound platform, and you've been first in on the True Local e-commerce marketplace opportunity that rolls out later this fall. What was your thought about taking advantage of those opportunities? Why'd you jump in?
Well, we have a pretty robust website and we actually been really lucky about our customers. We have a lot of loyal customers. So the first couple of months we were closed, I'd say our sales were at about half just doing the website, which was pretty great. Now we're probably down to about a third of our normal sales, but still we're hanging in there, with the loans and stuff too. The Hound, if the city is gonna, I'm always like PopCycle is always ready to try it. And if you guys offer it, and we want to be supportive of anything that the city and Local First Arizona are putting together. So and the Hound, I think we're going to take better advantage of it once we are able to get our doors open a little bit, because it is like that location based. You kind of have to be there to use it. And we did do the support voucher, but we haven't been. It's been kind of on us to promote it a little bit better. But I think once we get the door open, I think we can start using the walk-up, where the coupon pops up when you're close by or when you go on the website. I know our neighbors across the street, 4th Avenue Deli, are using it. And so that was cool. I went on to, look at the menu and order some food yesterday. And I was like, oh, they're using the Hound. Cool. So I hope that more businesses can take advantage of it as we get a little more opened up, because it is so based on people coming kind of into your area for it to work. So, and then the True Local, sorry, I might go to something else for a second. It's a super interesting concept, and I know Local First Arizona is doing something a little bit like a marketplace like that now, but not in the same way that True Local is like a kind of a local Amazon. So it's a great idea, and we were super flattered to be asked to be, one of the businesses that is on the pilot program. So it should be interesting to see how they handle our very diverse and crazy inventory. So we'll see how it goes. But we might have to take it down to just things that are more replicable, like T-shirts and things that we have that are kind of the same all the time. So they might not get to put everything we have on the website, but I think it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's great. No, I appreciate the willingness to play, right? And I know Gentle Benz has been on my app as well, so we'll get his perspectives in a moment. So I'm going to let Bill Kelly bat cleanup today. Bill Kelly, Chief Financial Officer of Diamond Ventures, is with us. He's responsible for project and corporate financing for the company. In addition, Bill heads the company's commercial division, which consists of a portfolio of industrial, office, retail, mixed use, and hospitality developments. He also directs the acquisition of income-producing properties. Bill has over 30 years of commercial real estate experience and has been involved in over $1 billion in real estate transactions. Prior to joining Diamond Ventures in 2000, Bill had senior management and executive positions with Bourne Properties, Venture West Group, and Ernst & Winnie. He received his accounting and finance degree from the University of Arizona. Bill, welcome. I'd love to have you talk a little bit about your retail centers citywide, how they're faring, and what trends you've been seeing at the onset versus maybe today during this crisis. Bill? There you go.
Okay, thanks for having us attend this. I feel a little bit of a duck out of water. We're not an urban development company. We're more of a suburban development company. Our largest retail development is Houghton Town Center out in the southeast Tucson. It's we were very fortunate that we had completed all of our projects before COVID came into being, and we had one building that we built out there that we had a mod pizza lease, and the mod was supposed to open months ago, but delayed, and it was really a sad thing. And then they figured out how to make things work, and we did not get fussy with them, and we've partnered up. And I think that the key is dealing with retailers on a flexible basis, because they've got challenges. We all have challenges with debt service and that kind of thing from a financial perspective, but I think the banks are working closely with us all to kind of navigate these waters that we're in. We bought an office building in Paul Durham's ward on 800 Wetmore, and it was a building that was vacated by a state of Arizona agency. And we thought we were smart as anything in January, and today we're now struggling with how to fill it up. The office environment is very different today because of people trying to understand how to work collaboratively, collectively, remotely. You know, how much space do you need? How much distancing do you need within inside the space? It's a very much of a learning experience for all of us, the employers, the architects, the teams that all come together to make these things happen with occupancy in office buildings. The big winner out there, from our perspective, seems to be the industrial sector. We had the good fortune to buy a building that Too Simple leased in an area right next to Houghton Town Center in southeast Tucson, and the plan there is to expand a campus for them on land that we own adjacent to this building. And they're a really terrific group of people, and they have big plans to be in Tucson long-term permanently, and it's very exciting to be with someone like that. One of the things that I think we should all be aware of is Tucson has gotten a lot of very good press that seems to be related to relocation for COVID reasons, that we have open space here in Tucson. We have the ability to house people cost effectively here in Tucson. So there's a series of programs out there. Startup Tucson is engaged with a group called Remote Tucson, and basically they're going to go out and recruit talent that doesn't necessarily have a job here but can work remotely from here. So it's very exciting. There's a post-COVID recovery committee that's being worked through with Sun Corridor and trying to figure out how to take advantage of relocating businesses here. We're working closely with our home builders for things like recruiting people to live here, both in the 25 to 45 age category, and then also in the 65 to 75 age category to be here and live independently, and senior citizens that are very health conscious and want to be outside of a COVID area and have more freedom and ability to roam around. All of like the Wetmore property has the access to the Rito River Loop. So we're very anxious to, sort of promote a healthy lifestyle at 800 Wetmore. The same thing, we launched our biggest project ever, which is the Rocking K last fall, and it's doing remarkably well. It slowed down initially, and we were concerned in March, but since March, there seems to be a real emergence of people interested in relocating to Tucson, which is really good. I mean, our biggest holdings are in the southeast Tucson, Pima County, Vail area. It's kind of anchored by Vail School District for obvious reasons. That's such a good school district, and so it's an unusual time for all of us. We were really challenged in March and feel a lot better today than we did in March.
That's awesome. So there's a question from Nancy, Bill, that you might be able to respond to. She wants to ask how commercial space availability would be affected by COVID. Are you seeing vacancies for commercial space rise as a result of COVID, or is the commercial space market stable? Same question she has for housing. Are there more rental vacancies as a result of maybe fewer students needing housing near campus? So start with the commercial space.
The biggest challenge in the commercial space is going to be what we refer to as the junior anchors, the soft good groups that like Steinmart, for example, just announced that they were closing all their stores and going bankrupt. So you have those users of boxes that aren't, they're 30 to 40,000 square foot, 20 to 40,000 square feet, and I think that's going to be the biggest challenge in the retail sector. Is that malls are very challenged right now with the ability to enter and socially distance in malls. So I would not want to be a mall owner right now. They're really challenged. There's going to be some transitioning of malls and this junior anchor space into more industrial type space. Our Walmart out at Houghton Town Center is redesigning an area so that it's a pickup and delivery point for Walmart to come in and have your goods right there, and you just walk in, grab them and go, and much more efficient way of, you shop online and pick up at the store. So it's a very innovative way of doing it. I do worry about the junior anchor space, though. I don't know how that's going to come back quickly.
Yeah, I saw the headlines with Steinmart. They're closing all their stores, including the 2 here in Tucson, but all of them across the country. So we're seeing changes like that, and we're going to have to figure out how to reinvent that opportunity, right?
For sure.
So what about housing? How would you say the housing market looks, whether apartments, multifamily?
So our focus is single family housing is what we develop and we sell to both local and national home builders, land lots that they then build the homes on. It's very robust right now. There's a lot of action and we segment out of Rocking K. So we have a 45-foot wide lot, a 55-foot wide lot, a 65-foot wide lot, and they're all getting bought up as we speak. So the rental market, we're not really doing a lot in the rental market. We do have a hotel out at the U of A, right across from the U of A Tech Park, in our project called Rita Crossing, and we're partnering that with HSL, and it was pre-COVID, it was just doing remarkably well, 85 plus occupancy at a very high rate, and now it's about 50% at a good rate, but not nearly as high as it was. So we've seen a big downturn in that. Fortunately, it's enough to cover debt service and do that sort of thing, but it's a real change from where it was, and it's going to be interesting to see when that sector comes back. That's a limited service hotel, Hampton Inn, and the more full service hotels, like the resort hotels and things like that, they've really been challenged from what I understand.
So if I had to ask you, you deal with a lot of tenants in your properties. What advice do you have for a business that still needs to find some relief during the remainder, let's say, of this year while this pandemic has impacted them? How are you working with tenants?
From my perspective, it's just the door's open. Let's talk. Let's understand what your challenges are. Fortunately, as I said earlier, the banks are recognizing this. So if there's some delay of debt service or postponement of amortization, those are things that happen. But I think it's just you got to have an open door policy to listen to their concerns and their struggles, and we're all partners in this together going forward, and you don't want to. I mean, if they vacate, you got to go re-let the premises, and that's a big cost to do that. So we're very anxious to understand their requirements, their needs, what they think the timing is to get back on their feet. We're on certainly uncharted waters, and hard to understand what exactly is going to happen. We've got the chaos of the political year as well, and so there's just this crazy times right now.
Yeah, as we always say, it's harder sometimes. It's like maybe 7 times harder to recruit something new than it is to keep what you have. And so I think what you're saying is you're working towards a win-win, and everyone's trying to get through this together. And I know I see Shannon's got to hop off, so that's fine. She's got some meetings to get to. But I thought maybe as a question to kind of end on, is there any, and this is kind of up for any of you, what would you say to small business owners like yourselves, or the ones that if you had to do it all over again, knowing what you know now, so taking beginning of COVID to where we are today, is there anything you would have done differently? What would you say to small business owners? Anybody want to take that? I know Jane earlier said something about, wishing she had planned more. Richard, any thoughts?
I've never really thought about how we could do it differently, but kind of what I touched on in the beginning is just being open and transparent with your staff, and just doing the right thing.
Yeah, if differently before COVID, probably working harder on our website. Like, we kind of used it as just it was there, people could go to it, and we kind of had a few things up on it, and we didn't really maintain it very well. And so yeah, just be more diligent about our online presence and online shopping. We'll definitely be doing that from now on. So yeah, that is, in retrospect, something we probably could have prepared better with. Not that we would have ever known what we were using it for, but just why not, make it's a whole other source of income either way. So yeah, and thank you. I'm gonna hop off now.
That's great. No, I appreciate it. Thank you for being with us today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for inviting me.
No, I think we've all experienced the digital changes, and it's really made us have to learn a lot very quickly and change the way we even communicate with folks, to change the way we do business, the way we meet, the way we negotiate. All of that has been in a more virtual format. So having access, and I think for retail, especially, and service industries, having that presence online. So again, and Richard, maybe your thoughts on, I know speaking of digital platforms, the Hound program is also something, and Jane's been helpful in helping get the word out to her merchants. So what's your experience been with things like that, either that or other things that you've found to be helpful?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of help out there and a lot of people that want to help. The Hound program's been awesome. We've seen some increased sales from that. The program that Jane did with the gift cards is also awesome. We saw tremendous sales with that. There's nonprofits that we're used to giving to every year that turned around a campaign for our staff. So, I mean, all those things are super helpful and kind of make you feel a little bit better about the situation.
That's great. So it's been an interesting day today, and I wanted to mention, with the stories Jane mentioned of losses out of COVID. Pedro also said they've lost a great member of the local business community. Black-owned business, Andre Newman, owner of the Purple Tree Truck and Arizona Heritage Tours, has passed. And so there is a GoFundMe account. Pedro, you are welcome to put that information, the GoFundMe information, in the chat box. So if you could do that, that way people can access that. But I appreciate you sharing that. And it really has been, COVID has impacted all of us, right? Whether it's us or someone in our family or someone we know and their family or friends or colleagues. And so I think it's not lost on us. And the gravity and really the sincerity with which our business community has dealt with that is admirable. And so I just appreciate the stories that you all have shared today and how we have gone through this together. It's not over yet. I think we're all learning a lot. So I appreciate, again, just the willingness to share your experiences. And so any final comments from anyone, Jane, Bill, anything that strikes you, any nuggets of wisdom to leave people with?
No, if you're doing anything about trying to figure out delivery fees for restaurants, etc., that is a big burden on our merchants right now.
Interesting.
And I don't know if there's anything that economic development the city can do.
Well, that's great feedback, because I'll certainly keep my ear to the ground. We always look for best practices that we find in other communities. We try not to reinvent the wheel. So on delivery, I'll be looking for creative ways to approach delivery fees and delivery activities. That's great.
I knew you would.
Great. Fantastic. Well, I'll bring us to a close. Don't forget that We Are One Somos Uno Resiliency Fund's small business and nonprofit continuity grants, as well as the grants for workers and families. There are links on our website at connecttucson.com for that, and that is available to you. We've talked a lot about great programs. We will be back next Monday at 3 p.m. with our friends from the Small Business Administration Arizona office and also the Tucson Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So more great updates. The SBA team will certainly share updates on federal programs and compliance topics. Be sure to register when you see the email invite in your inbox so we can keep you connected to these resources.